Hey guys, it's me, Liv. I hope everyone's doing good out there. Today is my next video for the Not Too Shabby Shop design team, and I am going to be getting inky and using some of my dyes. Now, I have this graphic plastic paper, and I use it sometimes instead of U-pull paper because I do find it on sale a little bit more often. I did end up buying these alcohol inks over at the Not Too Shabby Shop not too long ago, and I'm just going to drop on this alcohol ink and put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on the same time. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull out my blower and move this ink around. Now ink dries very quickly on the surface, so you don't have a lot of time to play around with it. So make sure that you go ahead and spread as much as you want. You can use the rubbing alcohol or the ink thinner blender that you get from Tim Holtz in order to kind of thin out your ink if you want to. Now I'm adding just one additional color here because this pink, once it hits the blue, ends up becoming a purplish color. So it just creates its own color, and I don't really need to see anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and move that around. Then I'm going to take out some of that rubbing alcohol in this bottle and just splatter it on just to create, this look of what I call cells, I think it's called. So once I have that, I'm going to fill some of them in with some more alcohol just so I can add some more color throughout and just spray it a little bit. And that is how I end up with the magic of colors here. I did end up leaving a little space on the side because I know I'm going to go ahead and trim this paper down eventually even more to fit onto my card base. So that is my finished product. Now I'm going to take out the splatters. I want to get a good close look of how this alcohol ink looks. I'm using some Dilution white ink. I'm just splattering it on. I usually take a paintbrush. You guys see me do this plenty of times and put on that white splatter. Then I decided I wanted to pull in a little bit of black. So I'm going to take out my Dilution ink. This is in black. And go ahead and splatter that on as well. I didn't want the black to be too much, so you're only going to see a little bit of splatters of black here on this. Once that is set, I'm going to let this dry for a minute before I go moving on to my other pieces. Now that this is fully dry, I'm going to go ahead and use my Whimsy Stamp Stars die that I have here. This is a Slimline size card die, so I'm going to end up using my Spellbinders cut because that's going to be long enough because this is a pretty long die. So once I've got it lined up, I'm going to go ahead and put it through my machine. Now, regardless of what die I'm using, I usually run it anywhere from 2 to 3 times through the machine just to make sure it gets a good cut. So I want to make sure it comes out. I find that even with the alcohol inks, because of the way the paper is, I tend to do it a couple of extra times just to make sure it all works. Now you can kind of see what the finished product looks like. Now I'm going to actually create a super simple background here using my Distress Oxide sprays. I went ahead and put it onto my glass mat, and I'm just picking it up on my background. Now, if you're using Distress Oxide, you want to make sure that you dry it fully in between so that the colors don't bleed too much when you're using. Then I'm going to go ahead and use a yellow and use a blue. Now you'll see I made even my own mistake when I moved on to the blue one because I did not make sure it was fully dry in between, and when I ended up putting that blue, some of my yellow seeped in and created green. Not exactly what I wanted to do, but you know what? Because this is a mixed media style card, doesn't need to be perfect, but do listen to my first advice in which you go ahead and make sure you dry in between the colors. So now my background is done and to my liking. And now I'm going to move on to actually upcycling some of the products that I have in my stash. So I had some leftover plastic from another project that I did, and now I'm just going to go ahead and use that plastic because I decided I wanted to make a shaker card. So I'm just trimming down the plastic here to make sure that it matches the size of the card. Once I have that all set, I'm going to go ahead and glue it down. Now, because it is clear plastic and I do not like the look of using clear glue with it, I am going to use score tape instead. Now that I have that down, I go ahead and varnish it really well with my tool because I find that it is sometimes hard to lift up when you're using that score tape. Once I have all that, I'm going to go ahead and trim off any excess that I have, and this is how I'm going to get my plastic to hold. That is going to need to be the first layer so none of the sequences end up coming out of my shaker card. Now please be very careful when you're using the plastic. Make sure it stays nice and flat, doesn't crinkle up, because it's really hard to fix any mistakes. I always make my plastic just a little bit bigger because I find it easier for me to be able to trim it down. Now if you're looking for this particular die as well, you love slimline dies, Whimsy has a ton of great ones. Be sure to go ahead and check out the Not2Shabby shop because she has a lot of them in stock for you, so that you can go ahead and buy it. She also has a lot of other great companies that make both the regular slimline as well as you would see something that's called the mini slimline, and that is a smaller size one. So if you want to go check that out, I will have the link for the Not2Shabby shop below. Now, as I'm saying earlier, I'm going to make this a shaker card. So I went ahead and used some foam tape all along the four sides here. And I decided it really wasn't deep enough. So you're going to see me do something which is called doubling up on it, because I don't have the extra thick foam tape. You can buy foam tape in different thicknesses. I just don't happen to have any, so that's why sometimes if I'm going to put something that's a little bit more chunkier and I want to make sure it doesn't get jammed, I do layer up my foam tape, and this is just a quick trick for you guys to be able to do that. So once I have that all set, I will then get on to adding my sequences. So once I've added all the sequences in, I try to keep it more towards the center of the project. I am purposely using sequences that match the card so that it will work all together. So using blues, purples, pinks, I'm adding a couple of the gold ones, and then I'm actually going to add some of the stars that were cut out from the die in there as well, just to give it some variety. Now the trickiest part here is making sure that you can pull off the tape without messing it up too much. I usually just take something to hold down the center. I'm going to go pull up the rest of the items here with the edging for the foam tape and try to center this, and once you just put it down, it's really hard to get up and I messed it up, but that's okay. I'm going to make it work. So oops. I'm going to trim off any to make sure that it lines up. Thank goodness I got it so no of my sequences will fall out. But now I will go ahead and trim that up. Mistakes happen, so we just have to work with them, and they do. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add my sentiment here. And I decided I had a whole bunch of these stars that had gotten popped out where you see. And I'm going to create a little bit more dimension by popping some of those stars up, with some foam tape. Once I get those all popped up and put all along the card, then my card is pretty much complete. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hop over to the Not2Shabby shop, you can find a lot of these fantastic dies, these alcohol ink products if you're into this style of card. And I hope I gave you guys a couple of inspirational ways to use your products in a new way. I'll see you guys shortly, and have a great night. Take care, guys.